Today, I'll be showing you guys how I built the world's most accurate Draculaura cosplay from beginning to finish. Back in 2010, Mattel launched a new line of fashion dolls called Monster High. These dolls were themed to be the teenage children of the most famous monsters. So today, I'm going to bring one of these iconic dolls to life, specifically Draculaura. Starting into this project, I bought a Draculaura doll to reference from, but this isn't the doll I bought. I initially wanted to do a different version of Draculaura. I actually bought this one, the Hunt Couture release of Draculaura. So, with this as my blueprint, I set to work. My first blueprints had her standing at about 8 feet tall, with the wearer being up on stilts. Now I walked around in stilts before up to this point, so I wasn't too worried about being able to balance in them, but in time I would realize how much more difficult this was really going to be. I started with her head construction by tracing a face outline from my computer monitor. From there, I created a cardboard framework to mold her face over. I built her face out of a material called EVA foam. And in case you're unfamiliar with this material, EVA foam is a flexible, lightweight foam that is quite simply a cosplayer's best friend. It can be shaped and bent when you apply heat to it, allowing you to make virtually any shape you want with this stuff. The sky's the limit. Most cosplayers use this stuff to craft armor elements along with other props and weapons. But I used it to create the outer face of a giant doll head. After I had her faceplate shaped and molded to my liking, I created the head's base framework. I did this by taking a baseball helmet and drilling on a wooden frame around it. I initially attempted to cover the outside of the faceplate with a pink stretchy fabric. Yeah, that was a bad idea. After tossing the uncanny skin bag, I decided it would be wiser to simply use spray paint to add color to her face, which worked much better. Next, I created her electronics. This process took the longest for me, given how I had never built a pair of moving animatronic eyes or eyebrows before, but with some patience and a bucket of Legos, I was able to get her face fully functional. The last step to finish her head was the hair. I wanted to give her hair plenty of volume, so I decided to use an inordinate amount of upholstery foam to accomplish this, then cover the foam with 9 extra long wigs of hair. Disclaimer, this was a really bad idea. The weight was insane. Upholstery foam is a reasonably dense foam and in large amounts can get really heavy. And surprisingly, I found that large quantities of wig hair gets really heavy too. The result was a head I could barely lift. I managed to put the head on once, but had to take it off in about 2 minutes. But being my usual daring self, I decided I just needed to toughen up and deal with it, so I moved on to the necklace. The necklace was a very simple, straightforward process for me. I crafted it out of EVA foam and covered it with spray paint. I even added 2 small LED lights in the bat's eyes to add an extra special effect for the cosplay. Next, I found an online shop that was selling a Hunt Couture cosplay dress. I ordered it and just received it in the mail when common sense hit me. You see, I was trying to put the whole costume on I had done so far, and as I was trying to get the head on, I was struggling, and I nearly dropped it. Had I dropped that head, it would have caused irreversible damage and ruining all my hard work. So at this point, I decided I was just going to bite the bullet and just start the head over. We needed a redo because, quite simply, it just was not safe to wear. Now here's where things got changed up though. As I began to draft out Draculaura's new head, I decided to not just simply replace her head, but actually change up the entire cosplay. This is due to the fact that I decided to create a different version of Draculaura. I decided to build the original Draculaura doll from the original 2010 line. I made this decision for 2 reasons. First, her original version had a much simpler outfit and overall details, making building the cosplay much easier overall. And second, the OG version of her had her hair in pigtails, a much simpler and lighter option as compared to the first attempt. So with my new heading, I started most of the cosplay over from complete scratch. I first tried to salvage the original faceplate, but I found that to be very difficult and ended up abandoning the attempt. So I stripped the head down to the base framework around the baseball helmet and started from there. I built up a new EVA foam faceplate that actually ended up being much more proportionally accurate to the actual doll's head. From there, I decided to change up her mechanical movements from her eyes and eyebrows to her eyelids and mouth. I felt this would help make her more expressive. So with a ton of hard and tedious work, I got her eyelids fully functional. For Draculaura's mouth, I built a mechanical arm system that would allow me to open and close her lips with my own jaw movements. The final thing to install was a way to see out of the cosplay head. I used a car backup camera system connected to a large portable battery to power it. I positioned the camera onto her forehead with the monitor on the inside right in front of my face. It worked well enough, despite the fact that I had no depth perception. And finally, her hair once again. I used upholstery foam again for the wig's base, but not half as much as the first time, making the weight immensely easier to manage. I covered it in a thin layer of wig hair using a combination of sewing pins and hot glue, then took 2 more wigs to make her pigtails. The finished result was a head that not only looked way better than the original, but one that I could actually wear without suffering.
With her head finally done, now it was on to the rest of her body.
I ordered in several clothing elements that were similar to Draculaura's outfit and proceeded to tailor and alter them to match. I even sewed together my first pair of gloves for her hands. They weren't perfect, but I think they did the trick after I glued on the fingernails. Lastly was her boots. I bought a set of drywall stilts that had pivoting ankles suspended by springs. This was so I could have a more natural walk cycle while in the cosplay. Next, I detached the foot pads and drilled on 2 wooden slabs in their place. Then I screwed in 2 high-heeled boots into the wooden slabs. I did this so I could get my feet to fit inside the boots without having my toes stick out of the front, which would have ruined the overall look. From there, I used EVA foam to build up the outer boot facade around the stilts.
And last but not least, was her umbrella.
OG Draculaura has a little umbrella accessory, so I decided to use it as a walking stick for me while in the cosplay. You see, after I just bought the stilts, I did a test walk in them with the whole suit I had completed thus far. That's when I found out that the head, though lighter than the first one, was too heavy for the stilts, and I found myself unable to even stand for very long without the risk of toppling over forward or backwards. So the solution was a giant walking stick themed to be her umbrella. So I bought a banister rail and used EVA foam to build up the handle and fleece fabric for the lower part. And with the completion of the umbrella, Draculaura was finally done.
But before I was ready to take her to my next comic convention, I decided to build her one more thing.
Draculaura has a little pet bat named Count Fabulous. So I quickly made a little cosplay of the Count that my younger brother agreed to wear for me. And with that, everything was done and ready to go.
This was honestly one of my most difficult cosplays that I've built yet. But I'm not complaining, because honestly, if I'm not pushing myself and even suffering to an appropriate degree, I don't feel I'm doing my best work. I personally believe that we find joy in the journey. Yes, it's still about the completed product, but it's about the growth we gain as we work towards that end result. So if you're aspiring to get into crafting your own cosplays, get ready. It's not going to be easy, but I can promise you that it's going to be worth it. I sincerely hope you guys both enjoyed and learned something from today's video. And if you guys have any other questions about how I built this cosplay, feel free to leave a question down in the comment section below. And as always, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.